If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place. This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
He's got it! Touchdown! Jack Doyle! And he's going to be brought down inside the 15, and it's going to go to DeForest Buckner. Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
From the Power Home Solar Studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Colts official podcast. My name is Jeffrey Gorman. I am joined week in and week out by Miss Larra Overton, Casey Vallier, and here and again, the voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, will be joining us today. So we basically have the face and the voice of the Colts. Reminder, PointsBet Sportsbook fans, proud sportsbook partner of your Indianapolis Colts, and a faster, easier way to bet on the action. Now live with the college basketball Make It Rain promotion. All you have to do is place a minimum bet of $50 on a team to cover the spread, and for every three-pointer they hit, you get $3 in free bets. Please sign up with the code Colts Radio. It's simple. One word, Colts Radio. You get two risk-free bets, up to $2,000. And again, Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier, and the wonderful Larra Overton joins me. And I want to start this podcast about me.
Rightfully so.
I want to start it about me, guys. Okay, Casey and Matt, are you okay me talking about me? What else is new, right?
I mean, that's just all about you, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, just
give me
another
30
day that
seconds.
ends in Y, right?
Listen, give me 30 seconds. I want to get this off my chest. I'm older than y'all.
Just by a little.
No, by a lot. I got my COVID vaccine at the track on Sunday night at 9:30.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share it with you guys because I didn't think much. Thank you for the applause.
That's big.
I just didn't think much of, hey, I'm going in. But when you get into the track,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you see the cars and you see the flags and not the Indy cars, but the cars going there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fluid. It was seamless. And then I started to go like, hey, this pandemic's been around for a while now and it's earth-shattering news. And then you get in line and you're like, hey, I'm getting this thing. So I got a little like, not emotional, but a little like, wow, this is wild. This is really sad. And I just wanted to share with you guys because I know you'll get it eventually, of course, with work purposes and all that stuff. But it just really, I didn't think I'd have a feeling like I did, but I did.
Well, a really special moment as well for my good friend Lindy Thaxton.
Yes,
she's going
I saw
through
that.
her cancer battle right now. She's in her final rounds of chemotherapy, and Lindy has been a staple around IMS. She's been a pit reporter. She's PA announcer around there. She, wasn't there last month of May as, of course, everything got postponed, and then she found out about this colon cancer diagnosis. So she's on the back end of her chemo treatments. She was able to get her vaccine, it was a really emotional moment for her to get to do that at IMS. So just want to share that we're continuing to root for Lindy and pray for her and just watch her journey as she continues healing, and can't wait to see her get back on the air at Fox 59 once she's fully healthy. And
good for you, Lindy. We're thinking about you, and that was an awesome thing. Anyway, guys, I just, like I said, I want to talk about me, but it was nice. I applaud, I tip my hat to everybody that was out at the track. It went wonderful. So now we segue into what we're going to be chirping about today. Okay, a lot of Colts football, but we're going to Sources Say with Casey Vallier, so he's got a line on some sources. We're going to talk about that.
That rhymes.
Matt
That's
Taylor,
good.
we're going to go over everything, specifically free agents. I'm going to throw some lists your way from the experts out there about the top 20 free agents out there. Are there fits? Yeah, I'm going to talk about are there fits here in the Colts? We're also going to be talking about International Women's Day yesterday, but celebrating it all month as we should, all year actually. Talk about some of the great women that are part of the NFL. That's coming up as well. Again, Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier, Larra Overton. But I got to start with this. Casey and Matt Taylor, to you first. Is excitations a word? Excitations. Excitations.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Shoot, I'm going to butcher this. Excitation. And Larra will sing you what I'm talking about. I am. Excitations. EXITATIONS. Larra, go ahead.
I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitation.
Yes, do you see that?
Yes.
Is that a word? Because we're talking Beach Boys here before the show started.
I'm never going to argue with Brian Wilson.
Good vibration. I don't know. That's a good question.
Is it a word is the question. I know it fits in
Excitation is the application of energy to a particle, object, or physical system. Absolutely is a word. And a loose usage by the Beach Boys, I would say, right?
It's about making out on the beach, though. Those excitations, not what you described. And I'm just saying, what is Brian?
I'm just saying, if you're making out with a pretty little girl on the beach, that's energy. That's particles moving around.
What if you're making out? What if you're making out with a pretty little guy? And you know what I mean, Matt.
On the other side of it, yeah. The physical system's getting a jolt.
The lyric is she's.
She's.
So the lyric
okay.
is she's.
Good call,
taken
Matt.
literally.
Love for everybody.
The way I look at it is Brian Wilson, in my eyes, is one of the smartest men in music.
Pet sounds? Are we talking pet sounds
today? Right. So if he's going to say it, I'm going to go with yes, it's a word.
The only reason
Lara,
I know
by the
Brian
way,
Wilson
Pet
is because he's
the name of the album. Sorry.
Yes.
He's the father of Wilson Phillips, who was like my '90s icon.
That is
band.
right.
So
That's
I didn't know
right. Good connection.
anything. And yeah, Wilson Phillips, though. Come on.
Just hold on to your day. Is that it?
Oh, yeah,
Wilson
you got it.
Phillips. Boy, we're going.
Someday somebody's
gonna make you want to turn around and say goodbye.
That makes me think of Harold and Kumar, Escape from White Castle, every time, or whichever one that is, because they're like fighting and it comes on.
It's the end of the, what's that movie with
I wanted
Kristen
to be
Wiig,
China Phillips in the
Bachelorette?
'90s.
No, the birthday, the bachelorette party, bridesmaids. Yeah, classic.
I was going to say, don't ask me. You guys know I don't know anything.
Classic. Okay, excitations we got. Now, one thing really quick, and then we're going to get into this. Lara's cheat sheet is coming up. Her and old man Tucker, who she married not too long ago, they got some life hacks and stuff. I hope. And we're going to hear about it again because I'm going to butcher. I'll butcher not you because I know better, but I'll butcher Tucker if these aren't good. And finally, Matt Taylor and Casey Vallier and Lara, we start with this. $160 million over the course of 4 years for Dak Prescott. The Cowboys did get their quarterback, but they're paying a price on it. I want to start with you guys there. You got to pay him, right? Now, we're not talking about, we don't cut the checks. Jerry Jones does. But for a quarterback of that
He's got plenty.
stature, right, of that stature and coming off the injury he did and see where they went, with Andy Dalton, this is, I don't want to say no-brainer, but that's the going market for good quarterbacks. What say you?
Completely agree. I think what you're going to see, though, is they were 3 years too late on this. They could have gotten him at a bargain a couple of years ago.
Comparatively speaking.
And here, I mean, it's smart for them because, as I like to reference what Matt Taylor always says, it's the fear of the unknown at the quarterback. You know what you have in Dak Prescott. Yeah, sure. When you look at Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, there's different kinds of quarterbacks that can help you do all other things. But what Dak Prescott does, he gives you a chance. So you have to pay those guys that put you in a chance to win every game, and that's what Dallas has done.
And, I know we can't talk about this in full detail just yet. Maybe next week after the new league year comes around and free agency can start.
Oh, we will.
But we can't really talk about it in the kind of the close terms, but big picture, I think this just goes to show that the Colts did one heck of a job in maneuvering some of the things that they did this offseason at quarterback because their starting quarterback next year probably is going to be a whole lot cheaper than around $40 million in Dak Prescott and maybe potentially, better production, way better production, and nothing against Dak Prescott, but I'm just not a believer as of yet in what he's been able to accomplish to this point in his NFL career. I know he had that nasty fractured ankle last year, played in only 5 games, but I think there's a lot to be desired in Dak's production and the way he plays and the way he leads a franchise, to be honest with you.
I think it's so deserved because I do think he was underappreciated for so long, and it's great to see him finally get what he is due because the Cowboys prioritized guys at other positions. Like you said, they could have gotten him several years ago and done this, and I think that I have an affinity for Dak Prescott because I spent so many years working with Chris Hagan, who is a Mississippi State loyalist. I mean, fandom of fandom. So Rain Dakota Prescott is like, I think on Chris Hagan's like Mount Rushmore of guys. So I love him. You also take into account all of what he has done, the things that I appreciate about Dak. He was my fantasy quarterback last year, so that's one reason.
That worked out really well.
I kind of I also had Christian McCaffrey. Things went south really quickly.
You must have won.
For me, anyway. Side note, everything that Dak Prescott has done to use his voice for greater causes. When you talk about mental health awareness and advocacy for mental illnesses, and also for the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, he's right up there in terms of, I would say, Patrick Mahomes, in terms of where he's regarded as, someone who is looked upon to be a really strong voice within the National Football League. So to me, Dak Prescott should be respected and should be compensated for being as big of a figure as he has been. And I think that's only going to continue to grow now that he has this support of this contract and knowing that he has now the confidence of the organization.
Yeah, and who cares? It's not your money, fans, because a lot of them are teeing off on this guy. It's not your money. That's what the position gets.
Well,
Instead of Jeffrey, show.
That's
it's the toughest
rate.
Position in sports. The toughest position in sports. Right. Going rate all day.
Is he as good as Patrick Mahomes? Has he been as productive as Patrick Mahomes? I would say that they're in two different classes, but you're exactly right. This is quarterback going rate. It is the fear of the unknown, to piggyback off of Casey Vallier. What are you going to do, not pay Dak Prescott? What are you going to do, roll the dice with somebody else? This is what you have to do in the modern-day NFL. You have to pay your starting quarterback, because if you don't, quite frankly, you just don't have a chance. And Dak Prescott, I know I kind of rail on him a little bit, but he does give the Cowboys a chance.
Right.
I would just like to see him take that next step to earn this money.
Well, let him. Let him. If I'm a Cowboy fan, I'm fired up. The guy's healthy. He's coming back. He's got specific skills. Yes, I'd be happy.
This is your franchise guy.
This
is who you're building around. You have to think about when you are looking at bringing in maybe free agents around him. Like, there are a lot of people who are going to be enticed now to go to the Cowboys if they can afford him now because of the impact of having a guy like Dak Prescott, right? Yeah.
They're paying Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper so much money that they really can't.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to...
That's what, when I look at it, that's what I think you're starting to see in Dallas is they're realizing the bad contracts they gave to somebody outside of the quarterback. Quarterback contracts, yes, they take up a bulk, but you have to do it. But when you do it and you have a running back and a wide receiver, that's why you looked at their defense last year. Their defense was atrocious, and it's because they just don't have any money to spend. So I look at it from, they paid him because they had to, but they've got a lot of holes they got to fill.
Right. No more franchise tag for Dak Prescott. Yahoo Sports, folks. Yahoo Sports comes out with their top free agent list. Before we get to that, we're going to also talk about Sources Say with Casey Vallier. What have you guys heard? Go around the table here. What have you guys heard on California, a certain quarterback, and wide receivers catching the football from some certain quarterback on fields in California? Some of those players happen to play for the Colts. Have you guys heard anything about this?
Yeah, Jacob Eason is throwing with Michael Pittman and with Desmond Patman out there. Yeah, I've heard that, which is much like they did after last year's draft, all of those guys out there together. Now, maybe there's another quarterback
I know who is. Matt, do you know if Eason or the other kid's getting all the throws, or who is it out there?
Man, you really want me to open up my wallet, don't you? You really want me to get out my credit card.
A fine from the league office.
Swiperoo, don't you?
All right, quarterback to be named. Maybe next week out there throwing around. So I do like to hear about stuff like that. But, guys, can I throw up the top 10 or 15 free agents for you and just kind of go around the room to say, are we going to land any of these guys? I mean, we're not talking for Chris Ballard. We're not talking for that, okay? We don't do that. But what the fit is there, the fit is there. So it starts with, according to Yahoo, and again, this is not us, this is Yahoo Sports. Number 1 free agent out there, Allen Robinson. 2, Chris Godwin. 3, Kenny Galladay. 4, running back Aaron Jones. 5, tight end Hunter Henry. Juju Smith-Schuster comes in.
I like the Hunter Henry
Will
fit.
Fuller out there. Carolina Panthers wide receiver Curtis Samuel. I'm almost done. Corey Davis from Tennessee. Chris Carson, a running back from Seattle. Big Jonnu Smith out in Tennessee. Kenyon Drake, a running back. Nelson Aguilar and Marvin Jones. And watch this, Leonard Fournette, the 15th highest ranked NFL free agent out there this year. So, guys, those are some pretty big names. We saw Trent Brown go to the New England Patriots from the Las Vegas Raiders. But I want to start with Matt Taylor on this one. I just named you 15 guys, high-end guys, with Chris Ballard, with the 4th most money to spend as far as salary cap goes right now. Is this something that he goes and makes a big splash this year, in your opinion, Mate?
Well, I think it just depends on the position, and then obviously it depends on the bidding war in free agency. And here's my free agency disclaimer, and I say this every year. These guys are on the open market for a reason, right? They're on the open market for a reason. Whether it's skill, age, or money, they're on the open market for a reason. For whatever reason, those teams that they are coming from, that their contracts are expiring with, don't want them right away. So we have to acknowledge that. So I think the question is always in free agency, and then obviously with Chris Ballard, is how big is he going to go? You know, as you said, there's going to be some big names out there, and we all know that Chris Ballard likes to hunt for bargains in the middle class. Perhaps there's players that are late blooming that he can give money to, and they can take on a bigger role than maybe what they had at a prior destination. Maybe they can produce at a higher level given a bigger opportunity. So I think that always appeals to Chris Ballard. But, again, kind of big picture, the one position group so far that Chris has been willing to spend at more so than others since he's been here since 2017, and the numbers bear it out, is defensive line. The biggest contract Chris Ballard has ever handed out went to a defensive lineman. That's DeForest Buckner, who he very boldly traded his first-round pick for last year, 13th overall, gave him a 4-year, $84 million deal. And if you look past that, the biggest free agent contracts he's ever handed out have been to defensive linemen. Jonathan Hankins got a 3-year deal, $30 million, I think, 2017?
Yep.
And then Danico Autry in 2018, Justin Houston in 2019, and then Buckner in 2020. So when he says that he loves the trenches and is going to prioritize winning up front on both sides of the ball, I mean, the guy backs it up. It's not just lip service. So, in terms of running backs and wide receivers and tight ends, yeah, it's nice to kind of have these big, eye-in-the-sky dreams of, bringing in Allen Robinson and Hunter Henry, but that's just not what Chris Ballard does. At least it's not to this point. He is going to build this team up front, and it's going to be really fascinating to see what they do at left tackle, how they answer that need, whether it's an internal option with Quentin Nelson moving from guard to tackle, or there's some big names in free agency. But again, I always throw out the caveat. Those guys are on the market for a reason, whether they're getting too old or too expensive or whatever. You have to factor that in. You have to factor in how they're going to fit inside the locker room. So there's all these things in play. But I would say big picture-wise, don't be surprised if he goes big on the defensive line, whether that's re-signing his own guys like Danico Autry and Justin Houston, or, guys on the open market like, Bud Dupree or Shaq Barrett or Unique Ngakoue, just throwing names out there. But defensive line and offensive line is where he's willing to spend money in free agency.
Larra, I'm just going to ask you this and let you go. You lose those two guys on any team, and in this case, I'm talking about Justin Houston and Danico Autry.
Right. From
a top 10 defense from one year to the next, that's going to leave a mark. I'm just saying. I know they're veterans. I know their price is going up, but that is going to leave a mark on this team.
Well, you feel like you almost want to lock down at least one or the other.
Thank
right?
you. Please, both of them.
Both of them would be ideal, but one or the other you could probably get by in supplementing and reinforcing in a couple of ways. But with Mayte bringing up Chris Hinton, I wanted to see if you guys saw the article. Mike Chappell from Fox 59 and CBS 4 had an article, very close friend of ours, of course, and he talked to Colts great Chris Hinton about the likelihood of Quentin Nelson moving from guard to tackle, and Chris Hinton said he would fight it. He would advise against it. He made that transition, felt like that he was much better suited at guard, and wished that he wouldn't have kind of made that compromise and made that switch. So I thought that was really interesting from a veteran guy, someone who's so well respected across this organization as an offensive lineman. Looking at that, I thought that was really intriguing. So that's a great article if you want to go out and kind of explore that in the next day or two as we, kind of move this conversation forward about should this happen. And, we talked to Baldy last week, and he felt like that you need to keep Quentin where he is because he is that generational type of talent. But just wanted to give a shout out there to Chappell for doing some incredible reporting there and talking to Chris Hinton, getting some fantastic insight, because that's what we have to do right now as we're waiting for this new league year. We're kind of rehashing all of these different storylines and looking for different perspectives and bringing different conversations up there. But that's one thing that I thought was interesting that I was looking at just yesterday.
Boy,
Jeffrey, going back to the defensive end topic of discussion, and Larra kind of hit on it a little bit. It would be, you finished what? You finished top 10 in scoring defense. You finished top 10 in overall defense in terms of yards allowed. And so, yes, there's a ton of building blocks here. The foundation is here. You played great for major stretches of the season last year. But yes, it would be. I think it would kind of put a big time ding in your armor to lose guys like Danico Autry or Justin Houston. And don't forget, Al-Quadin Muhammad is also a free agent as well. So those are your top 3 sack guys from last year. And when you're talking about depth on this defensive line, You got those three guys, but then after that, it's Kemoko Toure, who basically had a lost year last year because Chris Ballard at the end of the season said that even at the end of the season, Toure wasn't 100% because he had that gruesome ankle injury in 2019 in October. And then you had Ben Banigou, who was inactive most of the season last year, didn't have a single quarterback hit or a sack. So I know you like those guys, but they need to show you something. And to depend on them, I think, is a big roll of the dice. So, yeah, to lose all three of those guys, which I don't think will happen, but that would be big. And, this defense is so good, but I think it could be even better. And maybe the part of it that really kind of needs to take that next step is just the consistency at getting after the quarterback. The Colts last year, they had 40-plus sacks, which is good. That's kind of middle of the pack in the NFL. I think it's 12th or 13th. So it's good, but the consistency numbers are where you want to see it, kind of round into form. There was 7 games last year where the Colts had 0 or 1 sack. So it was kind of feast or famine.
7, did you say?
7 games with 1 or 0 sacks. So, you think back to those Houston games where they're getting 5 and 6 sacks on Deshaun Watson, or I think they had 5 sacks against Detroit. You want to see those numbers kind of even out a little bit where you're getting at least 3 or 4 sacks a game where it's not just feast or famine coming off the edge.
You talk about veterans like that, Casey, and you're talking about Danico Autry. We talk about Justin Houston, Al-Qadim Muhammad. I want to get Larra and Casey's take on this because we have a similar position with veterans, but just in the defensive backfield. You're talking about Xavier Rhodes and TJ Carey. When we talk about those guys, we go, oh wow, smart players. Got them off the couch in the street last year, whatever you want to say, but smart players, and did a darn good job. Casey, I'll start with you. We stick with the veterans in that thing? Do we pay these guys? What sort of thing do you do with a guy like Xavier Rhodes that literally had a subpar year and now will be demanding high money from other teams?
For me, entering, I would say, once the season ended and I looked at the guys that were free agents, in my eyes, I thought Xavier Rhodes was a must. I thought what he did in 2020, he just came in and just played. It was like it's like he'd been playing in that defense for multiple years, and you saw the impact of what he did. And I thought TJ Carey, in the spots that he needed to step up, he did. And that's just what veterans do. You talk about, you hear Chris Ballard talk about it in, looking back at that 2019 season, and he talked about how, losing Al Woods and a couple of those other guys that were those veteran presence in the locker room, they do more than just on the field, but you saw what TJ Carey did in the locker room and on the field. So in my eyes, those are two of the guys that I thought those are very, very important pieces to what we saw in 2020 and how important they would be to bring back.
I agree with you, Casey. One of my curiosities has to do with how much of the rapport between Jonathan Gannon and Xavier Rhodes leads him potentially elsewhere, because we know that JG was a massive driving force in pulling Xavier Rhodes here. That was one of his biggest draws to coming to Indianapolis, and then in that long extended offseason that they had because of, no OTAs and all of that, he was working out down in Florida. He and Anthony Walker, they have a rapport. They were working out together, all of that. And Anthony Walker, another free agent. And I'm curious now with Jonathan Gannon taking that defensive coordinator role in Philadelphia, I'm not sure at all what their situation is in terms of their corners, but I wonder if that is either going to potentially pull him there, or how much does Xavier Rhodes have invested here without Jonathan Gannon? What is his rapport with Matt Eberflus? Was he, is he so convinced and so convicted in this defense that he is willing to stay here in Indianapolis with the guys who he played so well around last year? We know, too, that Xavier Rhodes was this mentor to Rock Ya-Sin, and Rock still has a way to go and a way to progress. So I would say if there's a likelihood that you can get Xavier Rhodes back just for his production and his contributions for this defense, but then also to help groom some of those young guys in particular, like Rock Ya-Sin, who made some strides this year, but then we also saw points where he struggled. I think that would be another point, too, in terms of continuing to develop this secondary in bringing him back. So I'd love to see it. I'm just really curious maybe where his draw is and his commitment to the organization is, being that he spent less than 1 year here. He had limited time here when you talk about not coming into Indianapolis until July and then leaving in January. So I really like Xavier Rhodes, and I think it would be fantastic to get him back here. He is certainly a difference maker.
That's Larra Overton. Mayte, voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, I'm going to you on this. What do you think about what Larra just said there on that as far as the veterans? You know, I know it's big, but Matt, let's be honest before you go. Let's be honest. This team is going to look different. The guys that we are mentioning on this show, odds are they're not going to resign with the Colts. It's the way that works. Hopefully we get them all back, but this is a business, and these guys go after the money. So the T.Y. Hiltons, the Al-Qadim Mohammeds, the Justin Houston, we want to keep everybody, but it can't happen.
And you're going to have some big names coming up next year with Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard, right, Mayte?
Right.
Yeah, no, we spent an entire show last week, Jeffrey, talking about the salary cap and free agency, and you know, with the pie is going down. The pieces of the pie aren't going to be as big this year, and you've got, you know, for the Colts, you have 15 unrestricted free agents, and there's some heavy hitters on that list, and there's a lot of guys we haven't even talked about, like, you know, Malik Hooker or Anthony Walker and Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack,
yeah.
Going back
Trey Burton's out there, a veteran like that. You know, the pass catchers out there as well, along with T.Y.
So, you know, we talk about all the players the Colts could potentially lose, and obviously that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is how many players are going to be on the open market this year that can be obtained at bargain prices that can help your team or replace some of the players that you're going to lose. Every single player has a value, and Chris Ballard has, you know, that value in mind on every single player. He scouts the entire league, and he's not going to deviate or overpay what he estimates your value to be. Going back on Xavier Rhodes, the one thing that helps the Colts, and this kind of ties into what I'm getting at, is, you know, the salary cap is going to floor out at around $180 million, which is about $30 million less than what it was going to be had there not been a pandemic. Xavier Rhodes, Jeffrey, we talked to Joel Corey last week. He might be one of those guys.
Yeah.
He might be one of those players that would be willing to take a one-year deal with a football team, knowing that if I continue to play well at a high level next year in free agency in 2022, when the cap is way up, then I can cash in. And Xavier Rhodes might be a guy that's willing to do that, knowing he's probably got one big multi-year contract in him, you know, over the age of 30, because that's how well he played last year. I mean, look at his numbers. He surrendered a completion percentage of around 50%. That was the 9th best mark among all quarterbacks last year. That ranked higher than all but 2 Pro Bowlers. His passer rating against was 84. That also is kind of the same neighborhood as guys like Tre'Davious White and Stephon Gilmore, who were all pros. So he had a fantastic season last year, and from a play-by-play standpoint, when I'm doing games, I rarely talked about Xavier Rhodes because nobody's throwing his way. That's how good he was. So he might be a guy that might be willing to take a one-year deal, knowing he's not going to get as much as he would like in 2021, but could cash in 2022. So that is going in the Colts' favor, knowing that free agency for a guy like him is not going to be as profitable.
Hey, Larra, any concern over coaching? Yeah, I'm saying it. Coaching changes. There are a boatload of coaching changes this year from the next. I know we're talking players right now. Larra Overton, she's the face of the Colts. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. And then there's Casey Vallier and myself. We're just kind of here for the ride.
We're just here. Yeah, that's all right.
but no, really, the coaches, guys, and I want you all to weigh in on this. Are you guys? Is there any concern as NFL fans that we love this game, breathe this game, that's saying, hey, they're bringing in some new guys and key position new guys, losing an offensive coordinator to Philadelphia and Sirianni as a head coach for starters?
To me, no, because Matt Eberflus, who you thought going into the offseason was going to be your most likely departure, given all the attention he was getting, and he stays. You have Frank Reich, you have Matt Eberflus. To me, those are the two most important pieces. And then you have, as an offensive coordinator, Marcus Brady gets a well-deserved promotion from quarterbacks coach to OC. He's been around the organization a lot. He's worked with Frank Reich very closely. He brings a lot of things to the table. Then you also have Press Taylor, who has familiarity with Coach Reich from Philadelphia. That might lend itself to quarterback conversation to be had in another 7 to 8 days. So you have all of these factors. I mean, across the board, Kevin Mawai comes in as assistant offensive line coach, like to help as you know that you're going to make a move here and have have a new body on that offensive line to fill the void of Anthony Costanzo. You have that influence. You have Scott Milanovic, who brings that CFL influence along with Marcus Brady. Those two, there's so much rapport and correlation between all of these guys and this mutual respect a lot of guys have. James Rowe comes in. He coached Kenny Moore at Valdosta State. Although these are new guys within the buildings, they're not new among each other. There's tons of familiarity. And again, you have those two, to me, top pieces with Coach Reich and Coach Eberflus still in place. So everything else around them is supplementary. Not to diminish those, but I'm just saying that that's only going to help further what this is. Also, every few years, you need different voices in the room. You need different perspectives in the room to keep progressing and keep advancing. So I'm certainly, of course, guys like Nick Sirianni, you're rooting for. He's incredible. So many of the guys who he took along with him, you want them to succeed. And you do see these opportunities to bring in new voices as just an opportunity to keep adapting, keep growing, and keep doing some different things, because you cannot allow yourself to be stagnant as a staff in the NFL.
You're right. You're right. That's Larra Overton, Matt Taylor, Casey Vallier. Casey, I got to go with you. You know I love this. I love when you surf, brother, and I'm not talking about surfing out in Huntington Beach, California. I'm talking about surfing the internet. You got sources out there. Some are very friendly and close to you, and others you don't know, but sources do say things, okay? So what are some sources out there, Casey, with some potential Colts landings or Colts departures out there, and tell me who's saying it.
All right, so I've got 3 that are landing to the Colts and 1 departure, okay? So bear with me.
Ooh, juicy.
So Mark Sesser, who writes for NFL.com, he thinks the top target for the Colts in free agency is wide receiver Allen Robinson. As we talked about earlier, he's probably the number 1 receiver. I mean, we talked about the top free agents. He was listed number 1. When you look at the other receivers that could hit the open market, you've got guys like Chris Godwin, who I'm thinking is going to get franchise tagged or sign a long-term deal in Tampa Bay. It sounds like Bruce Arians doesn't want to let him go. So clearly I think Tampa Bay is his first option. And then you got Kenny Golladay in Detroit, which I'm not sure what's all going on in Detroit with all the changeover, but for a new quarterback that they're going to have and announce next week, I would assume they want to have at least a receiver for him. So I would assume that that's going to be the issue there in Detroit with Golladay staying there. But Allen Robinson, we talk about quarterback issues, Chicago, who knows what's going to happen. We've got reports that they're the number 1 team interested in Russell Wilson, but who knows if that's just smoke, if it's all just Seattle just, trying to stay relevant during this time when they don't have anything going on. I don't know what's all going on with Russell Wilson and all that. So Allen Robinson could be a name that I know we've talked about over the last couple of weeks as a premier guy the Colts could get, but he will be expensive. Most likely he's going to demand about $20 million per year for a little longer term deal, so more like a 4 to 5 year deal, which could be looking in the upwards of $80 to $100 million for Allen Robinson. Another source, a beat reporter for the 49ers, Matt Barrows, is thinking that the team that could most likely be in the running for a left tackle is going to be the Colts with Trent Williams, who is going to be a free agent for San Francisco. Now, Williams, he's 32. He'll be 33 when the 2021 season starts.
Yeah.
So he's probably not going to be getting a long-term deal, which therefore the Colts could maybe offer a little bit more, or, a team could offer a little bit more for a shorter-term deal while they kind of search for that left tackle of the future. So he could be a name the Colts look at. And then one that I hadn't seen until literally this morning, and I'm going to try to get his name correct, which I don't know if that bodes very well because I've never heard of him. His name is Chidobe Awuzie. Okay? He's a cornerback. He's a cornerback for the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys have some changeover on their defense. They're going to Dan Quinn, who formerly was in Atlanta, and he runs a more man-to-man scheme. Now Matt Eberflus and the zone scheme bodes a little bit better for Awuzie. Awuzie is 25, so he's very young. He was drafted 4 years ago in the second round, and he was a good player for Dallas, but never was like a top-tier corner. So with the change from them going from more of a zone to a man-to-man, and he also has some ties with Matt Eberflus being from that Dallas system, there may be a solid transition there for the Colts to be targeting another corner, and this is all talking about, if Xavier Rhodes leaves or TJ, it's all speculation speculation on what happens with those Colts free agent, but that could be a name the Colts look at. And then the wide receiver for the Colts, right now, according to Pro Football Focus, if the Colts go elsewhere in the wide receiver department and decide to not bring T.Y. Hilton, they believe that Jacksonville would be the best place for T.Y. to go back home.
Face him twice a year.
I know, I hear you. But it says, going back home and then kind of being that veteran presence for presumably Trevor Lawrence.
Wait, who's back home? He's from Miami.
I know.
Not even close.
Oh, they say in Florida. This is Pro Football Focus. I'm not saying it. Back to this home state.
I know, but I mean, Jacksonville's essentially Georgia.
Yeah, you're true.
That's true. That is,
right.
no,
It's a hike from Miami.
That is a stretch. That is a
Lara.
go-go gadget level. I got issues.
He'll miss dinner if he lives in Miami.
I'm throwing a challenge flag. I got my red flag out. I'm throwing it right now. That's yeah.
Like I said, these are just
midnight train.
sources.
Miami is so insulted. Miami is so insulted by the reference that it's Jacksonville right now.
Okay, I love it. That is Larra Overton, face of the Colts. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts. Casey Vallier. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. Again, PointsBet Sportsbook. Thanks for being here. Guys, I want to get to something that we've talked about a lot. Not so much with Casey and Matt, but Larra and I have talked an awful lot about it, and I want to celebrate women in the NFL. And that's what I want to talk about because we work with one of the best in the NFL, and her name is Larra Overton. And I'm not blowing smoke here or trying to get on your good side. I'm just saying, guys, if you could go over, I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, I'm, again, way older than you guys, but Phyllis George. Guys, Phyllis George, way back in the day, you can make fun of my age all you want, but Phyllis George was there in a room full of men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm talking early on, boys, and she had to hold
She's
her
the
own.
pioneer.
That's what I'm saying. She had to hold. Then we saw different journalists come in, women journalists come in, trickle into the NFL. And now they're all over the place. They're all on different teams that cover different teams. And my point for saying it is yesterday, International Women's Day. This is Women's Month, I believe, as far as that.
Women's History Month.
But I just want to take a minute and celebrate and say, guys, we can get smarter. I'm talking to all the dopehead men out there, okay? We can get smarter by listening to women. Listening to women explain football to us. Listen to women explain the rules to us. I'm being serious here when I talk about it because I am a champion of women and getting them going in the NFL. There are going to be owners of this football team that are women. You know what I mean? Sooner than later. This team that we work for, it will be women running this thing. And I'm talking about all across the board. Journalists is what I want to talk about right now with you guys. But we are blessed. They're only getting bigger. They're only getting better. And more women are showing up in the NFL game. So, guys, I applaud the women and what they're doing in the NFL. We need more, Larra.
Well,
we need more.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And we are incredibly fortunate to have an organization in which we do have 3 women within the ownership family with Casey and Kaylin and Carly, and the kind of example that they set, and they serve on committees across the league, and they're incredibly well respected, not just in our own community and our organization, but across, the NFL and what they're doing. And they've grown up around the game, and I think that they're incredible about supporting other women in this industry across sports media and across sports organizations. And one tweet that the NFL put out yesterday in recognition of International Women's Day, they celebrated a few of the women who have been recognized as trailblazers in the game. Sarah Thomas is the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl. That was, of course, this most recent Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Yeah.
Real quick. Had lunch with her.
Did you?
Here at the complex when she was officiating practices years ago, and we all had a great talk with her and stuff, and sat down in there and then fast forward, she's working a Super Bowl. Great story, love it.
And then the first black female coach in NFL history, Jennifer King, who is an assistant with Washington. Mm-hmm. And then we also have Lori Locust, who just won a Super Bowl alongside Bruce Arians. She's the first female position coach in NFL history. She's the Bucs assistant defensive line coach and the first female president of both an NFL and an NHL team, and that's Kim Pegula of the Bills and the Sabres. Yeah. So a few of those, of course, many, many women across sports in general.
Fun fact, the Pegula's daughter, I forget her name.
The tennis player,
went
Jessica.
To the quarterfinals or semifinals of the Australian Open.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. The Pegulas are new NFL owners, plus they've got a superior athlete, in their own barn. So well done to the Pegulas out there.
Very cool.
Mayte, you work with Larra. We've done this thing for a long time. You know what I mean? It's like, will we see? How long till we see? We've seen Beth do it on ESPN, but actually calling play-by-play on college games. When Mayte, will we see a woman calling consistently an NFL game play-by-play?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think we've already reached that point, have we not? I thought
Hannah
years
Storm.
ago.
Hannah Storm, yeah.
On Amazon.
Well,
you're right.
yeah.
I thought the 49ers, did they not had a woman, a female play-by-play radio broadcaster for a stint?
Kate Scott? Are you thinking of Kate Scott? She's definitely done.
Her name is not top of mind, but I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, listen, I mean, there's going to be, you talked about there's a female official now. I mean, I see where there's an African-American female official, which is absolutely fantastic. No, I am all for, if you put in the time, you put in the work, and you know your craft.
Thank you.
You are the best, and you are the most skilled. I mean, I don't care where you come from, what gender, nationality, you know, it does not matter. If you are the best for the job, you should get the job. Bottom line, and
like
I
Bruce
love
Arians
that we're
said,
breaking. Yeah, we're breaking barriers for sure.
Yeah, and like Bruce Arians said, I mean, a long time ago, it's like, well, how can you go? She didn't play the game. She didn't play the game. Either did you, clown. Either did you. You know what I mean? I'm not talking high school here or whatever like that. I'm saying either did you. It's only 0.5% of all people in the U.S. and the world that can play this game anyway. But I'm just saying, I'm with you, Matt. The more you know, and again, I'm applauding women and their involvement in the NFL, and it's only going to get bigger and better. And I'll close with this: if we leave it up to men, in my opinion, we're going to screw things up. Okay, we're going to screw things up. So. Again, I applaud all the women.
It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can apply this to anything. I mean, just
thank you.
No, seriously.
Thank you,
I mean,
guys.
different perspectives, different ways of looking at things, fresh ideas.
Right.
I mean, just look at my house. I mean, I've got the same decor I've had since 2008 when I was in college until my wife comes in and says, "No, this is crappy," and then she spruces up the place. Right?
Didn't want the Cincinnati Reds banners hanging anymore, huh? I mean,
or the Back to the Future posters. What the hell's this?
Oh, my God. I love it. So anyway, just want to take a minute and applaud everybody and keep going, ladies. Keep going because we need you. Okay. Larra, we're highlighting you today because we don't know. Has anybody met her husband, by the way? Anyone shook his hand? Casey, Matt, have you? Matt was at the wedding, so you have, right?
Absolutely. Dan
okay.
is one hell of a hard
I have not
handshaker.
met this guy. Old man Tucker, I call him right now. So I said to Larra, hey, do me a favor. You guys are in a new sort of, relationship here and stuff, a year in. Well, you got any cheats? Got any life hacks? Got any home hacks? Got any, let's cut some corners and save some money and do it this way sort of thing? And you're a newlywed, so yeah. I kind of wanted to go that with you.
A newlywed, yet we also lived in sin for like 6 years before we got married. So it's kind of new, kind of not. So I don't know. I kind of did some spring cleaning. So hopefully this is what you think in terms of hacks. But one of the things that I do, because we have an older home and we have limited closet space. And now my husband will say I am in every closet in the house because I have an abundance of crap, like clothes and shoes and everything. So I use shower curtain hooks. And maybe I'll have to post a photo of what I'm talking about. So they have the hooks on each side of them. So on, the left and the right, and then there's the top part that goes over the rod. But you hang those in your closet, and you can put your jeans on them by the hooks, by the belt loops.
Life hack.
And you can hang your jeans up, and then you can hang them on each side, so they're nice and consolidated. And your jeans aren't in your drawers; they don't get wrinkled, they don't waste drawer space. They're just hanging up there, and they hang nice and narrow
and
in
clean
your closet.
And a great
exactly.
look.
So your khakis with belt loops, anything like that. So yeah.
Does Tucker do this, or does he throw them on the chair like I do?
No, Tucker has his own system.
Oh,
this is just my system.
That's your system?
So that's just my system. But
Life hack.
You can get these shower curtain hooks for $8 on Amazon. I ordered them. I think I had 15 of them, and all my jeans just hang up right there. So when I'm running late in the morning, like I typically am, like I was this morning, and I almost spilled an entire cup of coffee on our boss.
Yeah, you did. I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah, because I was sprinting down the
way,
hallway.
that's on you. That was a charge on you.
That was. Rex Chapman would have something to say about it. And then the other thing I was going to say is it's getting into the warmer weather, right?
There we go.
And we all like to enjoy a beverage or so. So if you're someone who likes to have maybe a white wine or a rosé, but your bottle is warm, it's a warm bottle.
Listen up, Casey.
I hate to put ice in it because it waters it down, right? use frozen fruit. So maybe some frozen raspberries, frozen strawberries, frozen mangoes.
Life hack.
Drop those into your wine to cool it down, and then as it melts, it doesn't dilute your beverage. Also, doesn't have to be wine, doesn't have to be an alcoholic beverage. If you have like a lemonade, toss like a couple of frozen raspberries or frozen strawberries.
Just mix it up a little bit.
So then it doesn't water down.
What
as it
about
melts.
somebody like Vallier who still drinks the wine coolers? Can he?
Wow.
There's no help for him. There's just no help.
Jeffrey? I told you that in confidence, man. God.
I did like the wine coolers back in the day. It's like, here, have this beer. And it's like, yeah, this is okay. I guess. And somebody's
mama.
like, yeah.
Jamaican me happy.
Have this wine cooler. You're like, oh, yeah, it tastes like Kool-Aid. It's easy. So those were things back in the day. Okay, guys, I love it. I know we go all over the place. Talk a little football. Next week, we're going to be delayed by a day because we are going to wait for the new day one of the new NFL year, if you will, March 17th, where we can talk about some things that are happening. And hopefully there will be a lot of things happening on the front of the NFL. You can follow all the latest news on Colts.com. You can go to the Colts app, download that. There's a lot of great things on there. Maytay at Maytay Colts. Follow him on Twitter at C Vallier, at Larra Overton on Twitter as well, and I'm at Hey Gorman. Guys, I like doing it. We shoot the you-know-what around here. We talk a little football. We talk a little life hacks.
Tweet to me. Tell me what hacks you need in your life, and I'll see if I can come up with a solution for you.
Maytay, you know I like to do this, okay? Because Larra was in, this is a true story, and I'll end. Larra was talking, high-depth talk about personnel on this team and different coaches and stuff, and I had to look away, and I started laughing. And I start laughing, and I cover my face, because before we get on the air today, and I love to do this to you, Maytay, I said, Matt Taylor, by the way, does the best Don Fisher impression that's known to man. And if you don't know Don Fisher, then you don't live in the state of Indiana. He's the IU head for the IU voice of football and basketball down there. He may even do field hockey for all I know. But I had said to Taylor right before he went on the air, could you give me something if the Hoosiers if the Hoosiers reach 80 points tonight, they get a free taco or something. So I was hoping, and I apologize. You can tell me no. You can tell me no, but I just want to end this show by saying, hey, great things are happening this year, 2021 season again. Colts.com, download the Colts app. But Maytay, voice of the Colts, talented man, Larra Overton, Casey Vallier, I'm Jeffrey Gorman. But Maytay, will you take us out with a little Fisher and a little how he's going to, we're going to get a free taco for the fans.
Welcome back to the Big Ten Tournament. With 15:47 to go in the first half of play, it's Indiana 6 and Rutgers 4. Timeout is over, and a reminder that anytime Indiana scores 75 points or more, it's half off appetizers at your local Applebee's. Applebee's, located in Bloomington at 1655 Kinzer Pike. Anytime Indiana scores 75, it's Applebee's, eating good inside the neighborhood. We'll take a timeout, pause 10. Is that it? As we're continuing on, we're going to pause 10 seconds for network station identification. This is Indiana University basketball from Learfield.
It is the Colts official podcast, and we will end with that for Larra Overton.
We need some more Joe Smith. We need Joe Smith on there as well with a halftime report. We'll get that next week. We'll
Maytay
run down
next
the numbers
week.
next week.
And Maytay, you will be helping us out. I'm just telling you all right now, I'm going out of town for a little bit. I'm going on to parts
Thank
unknown,
God.
so you guys are going to have some fun and tee off on me in the next couple of weeks, but I'll keep you up to date. Again, PointsBet Sportsbook for Larra Overton, Casey Vallier, and voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. My name is Jeffrey Gorman. Thank you so much, Maytay. And again, we apologize, Don Fisher, but we love you. Go Colts. We'll talk to you next week.